Welcome. This is Beneath the Five Kings, episode 1.5. And the reason I say it is episode 1.5 is because Twitch VODs don't automatically record. That setting is off by default. So we played our entire first session, 3 hours long, and didn't record any of it. Gone forever. So
Very nice.
when we make it huge, it's going to be the biggest blunder of the channel. So we figured we'd record a kind of an overview video of what happened, just so people aren't lost if you guys do end up watching this. So that's kind of where we're at. We've got some notes, going to kind of go through some of the maps, kind of talk about what we did, and maybe even get some longer form backstories here. So yeah, I guess Brendan, we can start. Like, we kind of started the campaign. All of the characters got a letter to come meet at the Five Kings Mountain, right? It's kind of how we started. Some of us lived there, some of us didn't, but we all ended up like a few weeks before this festival thing that we got invited to. We all ended up at a bar slash inn, Helgen's Inn. Is that? I think that was pretty much like the start of it, right?
Yeah, so everyone here got an invitation from Clan Talor to come to their family festival. So they have this festival every single year to celebrate the long storied history of the dwarves. So everyone here was a dwarf themselves or a dwarf friend of some kind, well-respected member of a clan, or a friend of a clan that got an invitation to partake in this festival. Come all the way out to High Helm, which is like the greatest city of the dwarves in the Five Kings Mountains, where King Targic first broke through on his quest for Sky. So it's a very big deal.
Yeah. It was cool. There's a lot of cool cinematic stuff that we missed because I didn't hit record properly. So, but we're recording now. I'm going to throw it over to the map now. The map for Helgen's Inn has more stuff on it than when we first arrived, but I'm not going to change what it is. I'll just we'll kind of walk through what's going on here as it happened. So we all ended up meeting at this inn. It was dope. We kind of gave some character descriptions, which you guys will kind of just see as the story goes on. But when we came in, there was a few patrons already there. This dwarf guy in the corner, this human lady off to the left, the bartender, which a few of us recognized, and then also this blue-haired. What is she? What's her race?
Gnome?
Gnome.
Rhea is a gnome.
Gnome is a gnome. I couldn't think of what that was called. So yeah, Rhea was a gnome, and she was very like woohoo, like very kind of crazy and out there. But she kind of ended up being like she was kind of talking to us. She was the person that like we were meeting here, and so we kind of all talked a little bit to her. But I think the big thing that she said is just like, hey, like part of this festival is like sharing stories, and like part of Clan, what's it, Terrell? How do you say
Talor.
it? Talor is like being able to like share stories or like find artifacts, like put them on display, and like a lot about history and stuff. So she was like, during these 2 weeks, you guys need to go like make some stories to be able to show, but also I'm sure you all have your own personal stories to tell. And that was kind of Brennan's cool way of introducing some of our backstories. So we went through and did some backstories for each of the characters, which I think it was so good, and it was the best part of the episode, some would say. And maybe it won't be this time, but I think we're going to run through those again just to give a quick overview. And they're not quick. This is going to take a little bit. This will be a majority of the video, but I think they are pretty badass. So I think first up we had my character, Wokruun. So I will take it away from Brendan, and I will hold a big picture of my character on the screen so y'all can see it. Actually, give me... Yeah, all right, you're good.
All right. So we show a deep cavern with a very low light. It's kind of dim in there, and a young Wokruun runebinder, the stout dwarf with a curious glint in his eye, is exploring the depths of the earth here. His footsteps kind of echoing throughout the cavern. In one hand, he's got kind of a flickering torch, which kind of casts long shadows on the rocky walls around him.
Sorry, that's my line. You broke up for a second, so I apologize.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah, you did. All good though. We're recording. We're doing it live, but we're not doing it live.
Live-ish.
Where were you at?
He's whispering to himself. In the
Okay,
beginning.
sorry. Probably just shifting. Surely not cave worms this time of year. I wonder what secrets might lie in these ancient tunnels.
Oh, you know what? I am reading your old backstory, so we can just start this over if you want, and then
Sick. Hey,
I will.
that's why we're recording.
Yep. Okay.
It can
Now,
only get
I
better
see
from
what it is.
here.
I see what we did here. Okay, I was reading from a draft and not the actual final copy, so
Oh,
we'll
good.
just start over. So what we see is a young, stout dwarf with a curious glint in his eye, exploring the depths with his torch held aloft. The flickering firelight scarcely provides enough light to read the stained map that he holds in his hands. One name stands out: Crohan Veldalo, the dwarf who believed that he could find the final resting place of King Targic, and foolishly went down into these tunnels alone. These very same tunnels. Dirt and debris kind of trickle from the ceiling and spatter the already hard-to-read map. Grunting in frustration, Wokruun rolls the map up and stows it.
Probably just shifting. Surely not cave worms this time of year. I wonder what secrets might lie in these ancient tunnels.
Without a map to guide him, Wokruun continues deeper and deeper into the cave system, only the occasional guide stone proving that he is still on the right trail. Eventually, he finds a freshly dug tunnel, perfectly round, that cuts through the chiseled stone as if it were nothing. Something calls him down the tunnel, and against his better judgment, he begins trudging down this peculiar trail. Bits of stone and debris crowd the edges of the tunnel. Occasionally, there's something shiny caught up in the rubble. A coin from a bygone era, a dagger that's bent beyond repair, or the metal buckle from a belt. Eventually, he finds what it is that was calling out to him. Sitting auspiciously near the edge of a yawning pit that went straight down into the earth is a single ornate chalice. The cup seems to glow with a vibrant light and hum almost pleasantly. Thrum, thrum, thrum. The strength of the humming increases as the young dwarf draws nearer, but suddenly stops when he picks it up.
You are something special, aren't ya?
He kind of lifts it up gingerly, his eyes wide with excitement, before carefully depositing it in one of his traveling packs. The scene changes. We're back in Highhelm. The time has come to present the clan leader with his findings. We would find old Trigeld in the study of Runebinder Hall, nose down in a manual for iron golems.
Uncle, I've brought something back from my latest trip. Something I think you should see.
If you spent half as much time working on your magic as you do digging for trinkets, then you would have already succeeded me as leader of this clan, nephew.
Wokruun opens the cloth-lined chest to reveal the chalice. Its magic seems more muted now that it has been taken from the earth, but it still radiates a fair amount of light and power.
Where did you find that? It does not belong to our clan.
Uncle, I found it deep within the earth, hidden away in the caverns. It called to me, and I couldn't leave it behind.
This is dangerous, Wokruun. His power is unknown, and it might be cursed. We cannot allow such things in our clan.
So, despite Wokruun's repeated pleas, his uncle stood firm.
This object should be destroyed. The way things are now, we cannot allow for misfortune to creep into our lives. Can't you see how tenuous the clan's position is?
We change scenes again to Wokruun tossing the chest into the forge fire under the watchful eye of his uncle and several fellow clan members. They give him praise and pat him on the shoulder.
Better luck next time.
As they all drift out, Wokruun traces the grooves of the chalice that he has hidden in one of his numerous inner pockets. It is safe for now, but he must keep it secret.
If anyone were to find out that he kept it, then he would be forced to give it up before he could discover its secrets.
Nice. So good.
Yeah,
Big
so
fan.
that's a little bit of history about this particular character, about
Yeah.
Wokruun Runebinder, the dwarf. Do you want to tell everyone what class he is?
Nope, sure don't. Not yet.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna let it come out. I'm gonna let it come out. But all right, I
That's
think
fine.
up next we transitioned over to Elnat, which is another dwarf.
Yes, so you got him highlighted on there.
Got him. We are up.
All right, so different time and place. Elnat wakes up long before dawn on his 25th name day. It is rare that he is the first to wake with so many siblings in the house. Mother and father must rise early to tend to the hearth and start breakfast. In his eagerness, he rises to stoke the coals and begin prepping the stew. One by one, you hear the voices of his family start to trickle in. A busy household, such as his, is a loud household. When they first emerge in the family room, a sharp gasp brings Elnat running back. The hearth fire has spilled out onto the stone floor, and smoldering in the flames is a clear symbol. Burning coals that form the shape of an axe. The unmistakable symbol of Angrad's chosen. His father speaks up. It's a sign. Who was stoking the coals? Elnat is quiet for a moment, fearing he made a mistake. He never tested for the priesthood in his classes. Book learning was for dwarves who wanted to be engineers or philosophers. But Elnat greatly preferred his combat and weapons training, most of all his forge work. This time his father asked him directly, Elnat, was this your doing? To which he had no choice but to nod. Dressing quickly in the pre-dawn hour, they make their way to the Forge of the Nine. Only the residing priest, Otto Ironfist, would be able to interpret the whims of the divine. We see Elnat put through a series of grueling tests. First, his ability to interpret and predict the will of Angrad. He stares at the hot coals, piles of ash, various displays, strains his eyes for any clue as to what they could possibly mean. What followed was arguably worse, written exams to gauge his knowledge of the rites and scriptures of the temple. Judging by Otto's disapproving, wrinkled stare, that process did not bode well either. Finally, the time came to practice spells. Elnat was given a series of gestures and words to remember, and despite his best efforts at conjuring magic, also seemed to go far beyond him. Conversations turned into lectures, and Elnat was released with an official note from the temple. He displays great aptitude, but at this time he is too inexperienced to become a priest. Otto's parting words were much more pointed. You're not bright enough to be a forge, but maybe stubborn enough to be a hammer someday. Most of his name day had already passed, but there was still time to receive his clan dagger and ceremonial sheath. Seeing his friends and family brought some of the day's joy back to Elnat, but he couldn't help but feel that somehow he had failed. What was he meant to do? All that he had ever wanted was to carry on his parents' legacy and forge the greatest steel that Highhelm had ever seen. These were the thoughts that plagued the young dwarf as he began to drift to sleep that night. That was the first time that he dreamt of the Forge Heart. Celestial archons worked metal tempered directly in holy fire. There was a creature that looked much like a dwarf, but had skin that looked like it was made of cast bronze and a beard of flames that spoke to him. You've been chosen, you know. Not all who receive Angrad's will of fire rise to the task, but he has faith in you, young Elnat. The creature then touches him on the shoulder with a burning palm, and the sensation of hot metal and the smell of burning flesh wakens Elnat from a dead sleep. He throws off his nightshirt and sees a mark where he had none before. If he turns just right, it looks like the outline of a great axe has been seared onto his left shoulder. Feeling a renewed sense of passion,
Elnat chose to rededicate himself to his studies and his work, and he found that combat lessons came more easily, as did working with hot metals in the forge. His continued dedication and passion earned him chances to work with master smiths all around town, even those who forged steel directly for the High King. Time began to pass, and the gnawing suspicion that there was more to this world than work and dedication began to creep back into his mind. And that's his backstory. That's a little bit about Elnat's backstory. Who do we have next? Is it Kawru? Oh, if you're talking, also you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we have Kawru. Yep, Kawru is up next.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we those were probably two of the lighter backstories, but yeah, up next is we have, and I have to mention that when we first walked in, this character definitely drew some eyes because they are a puppet.
They're very small.
It's like
doll.
a walking doll. Yeah, so it is a good backstory.
Okay, so we'll go continue on. So another flashback. In a remote corner of the dense and uncharted jungle, we see a tightly knit family of Vanara set out on this extraordinary adventure that would turn out to forever alter the course of their lives. Kawru is the brave and agile father. Roma is the nurturing and mother, and their young and inquisitive son Sol are venturing into the heart of the jungle in search of an ancient tomb that is rumored to hold untold secrets and treasures. So we see the jungle teeming with life, from the raucous cries of exotic birds to the serenading whispers of leaves rustling in the breeze. Together, this fearless family moves with grace and agility, their nimble limbs allowing them to navigate the jungle's treacherous terrain with ease. Kawru, the father, had heard whispers of an ancient tomb, a relic of a civilization lost to time. Legend spoke of the tomb's riches and the hidden knowledge it contained. Determined to uncover the mysteries and share them with the world, this family embarked on their daring quest. Journeying deeper into the jungle, Roma began to marvel at the flora and fauna they encountered. She shared her knowledge of herbal remedies and the jungle's secrets with Sol, who began eagerly absorbing this wisdom, which was passed down from generations. After days of this exploration and the occasional perilous encounter with jungle creatures, his family stumbled upon the entrance to the ancient tomb. As a silent, solemn sentinel, adorned with intricate carvings and symbols that hinted at the mysteries within. Kawru was able to use his sharp intellect and dexterous fingers to decipher the ancient inscriptions and unlock the tomb's heavy door. As the door creaked open, they were met with the stale, ancient air of the tomb's interior. They could only see by the light of the torches that they brought with them. The family stepped inside. The walls were adorned with breathtaking murals that depicted a civilization that had thrived in this jungle ages past. Relics, jewelry, and artifacts lay waiting to be discovered, seemingly untouched by the long passage of time. But something happened. The shadows in the room shifted, and a dozen dwarves stepped out to surround Kawru. Dark dwarves, deep dwarves.
You see that, boys? He followed our breadcrumbs, comes the booming voice from a dwarf at the end of the hall. Looks like he's got himself some helpers, a shrill voice said from behind them. You've been busy, Kawru, forgetting all about your true family. He took this moment to scream, Roma, get Sol out of here! But by the time the words left his mouth, the horde of dwarves had already closed in, blocking their way. Roma's hand swirled madly as her mouth breathed the words for Dimension Door, a portal slowly shimmering into existence in front of her, but it was too late. One of the dwarves swung their great axe from behind, and her head rolled onto the floor, careening down the great hall. Kawru's mind burst with psychic fury. Thousands of voices, not his, screamed out inside of his mind.
But all of that is suddenly silenced with a sharp thud to the back of Kawru's head. He sees white, and then nothing else. Spells cast and dark energies unleash. The clash was fierce and unrelenting. The family, bound by their bond and love, fought valiantly, but the cultists were ruthless and cunning adversaries, using the element of surprise to overtake them. In the end, despite their courage and determination, there was nothing they could do. That family of Venara met their tragic end in the cold, dark chamber, succumbing to the power of the malevolent cultists. As the torchlight dimmed and the darkness began to swallow it, the memory of Kawru, Roma, and young Soul would forever linger in the heart of the jungle, serving as a poignant reminder of the perils that await anyone who dares to uncover the enigmatic and dangerous secrets of the past.
Hell yeah. And I will note in that backstory, Kawru is not a puppet.
Yes, and they're a family of Venara, so they're all these kind of monkey folk from
Yep.
from the kind of the Far East.
Yeah. So we don't really know as characters or even as humans, like why. Well, yeah, why this guy's a puppet. So that is a mystery to be unveiled at some point, I imagine. But up next we had Huang, right? Huang?
Maybe. I don't.
And we also noticed when they walked in this character that they seem to have a pet that is a pangolin. So
Pangolin.
which is super
Very
cool.
exotic.
It is, yeah. But I will pull up their picture. We can hear a little bit about their history.
Yeah. So this takes us to a land far away across the ocean, to the day where the sickness began to sweep through the village. It was almost as if an ominous shadow had come out from the forest and overtaken their homes. Huang's parents, who were wise and revered in the community, were among the first to fall ill, their usual vibrant spirits replaced by pale, feverish faces. The villagers, who were once so full of life and laughter, were now gripped with this fear and uncertainty. Huang, barely a young herbalist at the time, watched helplessly as her family worked tirelessly to tend to the sick, using their herbal remedies and spiritual guidance in a desperate attempt to save their neighbors. For weeks, she did her best to assist her parents in gathering rare herbs, preparing poultices, and offering kind words to those who were suffering. Medicine and herbs seemed insufficient for this ailment, almost like a curse, more than a sickness. And despite their tireless efforts, the sickness began to claim her family one by one, until she was left with nothing but a heavy heart and the overwhelming sense of loss. It was a crushing blow to her, and she couldn't help but feel disconnected from her own identity, as if the spiritual bond that had defined her family for generations had been lost. But in the wake of her family's passing, Huang grappled with a profound sense of grief and emptiness. She yearned to carry on their legacy, but also wanted to further explore the depths of spirituality and herbalism that have always fascinated her. She realized that her family's teachings, though invaluable, could only take her so far, and she needed to strengthen her connection to the spiritual realm and rekindle it in a more profound way. So, with this longing for a deeper understanding of herself and her family's heritage, she set off on a path of self-discovery and reconnection. She was out to discover the mysteries of the world and seek answers to the questions that had always haunted her, and hopefully find some type of solace in the embrace of the spiritual realm that had once been so central to her family's existence. Huang's quest for meaning and her desire to honor her family's memory were the driving forces behind her decision to leave her entire homeland behind and embark on a new chapter of her life, with her faithful sidekick Bao by her side.
Hell yeah.
I got some good art for both of those characters. They're
Yeah.
from the far-off province of Tiansha, the Dragon Empire.
Hell yeah. They look very Dragon Empire-esque. The only place that you can naturally find pangolins, actually. I don't know.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay. Up next, we have our kind of dark and brooding looking character, Orpheus.
Orpheus.
Not to be
Orpheus
mistaken
is-
for Shai Hulud. Or not Shai Hulud,
That's-
excuse me. Not Shai Hulud.
Timothy Chalamet?
Yeah, Quizatarat.
Okay, all right. Yeah, not to be confused for a giant worm. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, that's also accurate, so.
Yeah. So, yeah, for Orpheus's backstory, it takes us to an interesting place. So we pan over the metropolis that is the world's greatest city, the jewel of the inner sea, Absalom. Bustling carts making their way through the crowded streets, merchants hawk their wares. The city is lively, loud, and alive. Slowly, the camera starts to shift until it's fully inverted. As it does, our view of the city changes. What was once the sparkle of the inner sea in the distance turns to a long, flat plain of black dust. The noise from the city dies away almost instantly, and where the bright sun once shines brightly in the sky, sits a somber moon, its meager light doing almost nothing to illuminate the dim city beneath. The city of Shadow Absalom. The buildings here cast long, dark shadows, as dim torchlight barely reveals the cracked flagstones and worn gray boards of a simple log cabin. Despite all of the darkness, a warm light exudes from within, and we hear the muted sound of a child at play. We creep slowly up to the window and see that the home is modestly furnished, perhaps lacking some normal amenities, but the family within seems to be getting by just fine. The child's mother, a bright spot in the darkness as she brushes aside his dark curls and kisses her son on the head. She makes him a cup of warm milk and honey to soothe him. It's tough being picked on for being different, even in a place such as this. The boy's father walks in, kisses his wife. A single candle flickers brighter for a moment, as if their love could transcend all of this cold darkness around them. He starts to speak to his son, but is cut off as a commotion in the street draws away his attention. What was that? The man's voice is stern, as we talked about before. Hide. The young child nods and dashes away to hide, first pulling the door shut and then burying himself under articles of clothing and anything else he could find. The space becomes hot, suffocating, and uncomfortable, but this is a game that they have played before, and the punishment for losing is severe. Covering his mouth with both hands, Orpheus struggles to make himself as small as possible. Shouts, and the sound of splintering wood shake him to his core. This was never part of the game. Fear makes his hands sweat and shake, even as he struggles to make no sound. Suddenly, everything is quiet. Nearly silent footsteps make their way around the room, even managing to avoid the creaky floorboards that never fail to squeak when Orpheus steps on them. The quiet is unbearable. Not knowing what to do is worse. Should I open the door? His hand starts to move towards the latch. Only extreme fear of being in trouble keeps him inside the wardrobe for now. Time passes. What seems like hours. Orpheus drifts into sleep. His dreams are nightmares, and he awakens in a cold sweat. The game has never lasted this long before. He must take a look, so he pushes open the wardrobe quietly. The candle has been blown out, so only the light from lanterns outside permeates through the windows that have been shattered. Tables are overturned, stools have been broken. Mother and father lay on the ground, in an awkward pose, not the way that they normally sleep. He creeps up to them, steps in a growing puddle of warm liquid,
shaking his father's shoulder. He doesn't wake up. What happens next, Orpheus scarcely remembers. Only loneliness, fear, and panic. His emotions kept him running until he reached the bright light known as the glare and steps through. Only his mother's words echoed in his head. Sweetheart, if you ever need help, you must step inside the glare and it will take you to a place where you can have a brighter future. Trust no one. That is the story of how Orpheus came to arrive in Absalom, stepping through the glare to an impossibly bright and much more confusing version of the city that he's always known, alone, afraid, and without any idea what happens next.
Hell yeah. Shadow Absalom. That's pretty dope.
They certainly go to some different exciting places in some of these stories.
Yeah, no kidding. And speaking of these stories, we got one left. Our nice orc friend, Angoric.
Orc Fran.
Orc Fran.
I heard what you're trying to say.
Yeah, you got me. You're picking up what I'm putting down.
So this takes us to a crisp morning on the side of the mountain. The air here is cold and crisp, breath shimmering in the thin mountain air. Thundering hooves and creaking wheels preempt the cries of war as dwarves descend into the valley and the orcs there turn to meet them. A cloaked figure, far away from the battle, shakes his head. This will be swift and decisive, but is it fair? Was this really necessary? The forces raging down the hill don't seem to care about his qualms. They break like an avalanche over the waiting figures, who are too few in number to resist, although they do try. The fight is one-sided, but the orcs each fight like 10 men. The battle rages on for a time. We creep up slowly to a tent, the sounds of battle still raging outside. A mewling orc child lays in a manger, having kicked off the furs that were warming him. Heavily booted footsteps stomp through the slurry outside and are interrupted only briefly by a woman's voice. No! Leave the child be! Take me! And steel connects with bone, and a sharp crunch is followed by a much heavier thud. We hear a low man's voice. That's what you get, savage. Sounds of battle fade away, and only the child's cries echo in the darkness. Mama! Mama! The voice speaks again, looming over the child. What shall we do with this one, Anturian? Another dwarf responds with a steely tone. Get rid of him, just like the others. Light enters the tent as the flap is pulled open. We see a middle-aged priest enter with the trappings of the Mother of Mercy. He shouts in order to emphasize his point. No! No, he's just a child! He has no guilt in this quarrel. His peers respond mockingly. What would you have us do, Arador? Carry the babe all the way back? Yeah, best to just be rid of him. He's just an orc. You don't have to pass judgment. We know you don't have the stones. From the child's perspective, we see a bloodied warhammer come into view, raised high above his bed. The child begins to scream as the tension of the moment peaks, and a hand suddenly stops the hammer mid-swing before it picks up any speed. Father Arador grunts with the effort, but does not yield. Anturian, please, I swear, I will carry him. The babe can be my responsibility. I will take him as my ward, and if harm shall come to him, those responsible must enter to Fulgrit. And he taps the holy symbol around his neck. Take care, brother. The king's justice may catch up with you on our return. Young Angoric feels himself being lifted, and the cold, bloodied warhammer is replaced by a dwarf with a cheery countenance. 2 eyes that would become quite familiar over the years. Little one, things will get better. He lurches to one side as he steps over the orc woman outside the tent, who is not quite so lucky. We see a bright flash of light as they exit the tent and the dream ends.
Hell yeah. Pretty cool.
Starting to repeat yourself there a little bit.
Well, that's a good phrase to use. Hell yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So we did the backstories, and they were pretty cool. And then I think the characters kind of just ended up chatting up a bunch of people in the bar or in the inn, and just kind of figuring out what we're gonna do over the next couple of weeks. I know a big thing was just like, how do the people that have lived here all their lives like find new things to do, and all the people that haven't lived here help them find things to do. So we asked Ria, we asked the human lady. I don't know how to say her name though. I'm not even gonna try.
Maurizia?
Quarizia.
Yeah, so you
And then
talked
we-
to
Yeah, and
the
Albert.
bartender, Epna.
Yeah.
She's kind of a dwarven maid that seems kind of nonchalant. She's used to seeing all kinds of folks. Ria was obviously the very excited and sort of energetic gnome that wanted to hear about all your stories and wanted you to go off and find some adventures. And Quarizia was an artist, not a starving artist. She looks like she was being fed quite well by the innkeeper, but she had heard about a sporting event, right?
Yeah.
A game of Basilisk that was
Yeah.
coming to town.
That was really like
And,
the first thing that we found out about that we should go do. So we were pretty excited about that.
And so she's supporting her hometown, the Magnamar Fire Pelts.
As most
but-
of us are.
And the High Helm Hodags from
I guess that's
High Helm obviously have the home field advantage here, but it sounds like their star player is out on paternity leave. He recently had a child and had to leave the field a couple days early, so they're holding tryouts to kind of get a replacement there.
Yeah. And we had the logos for those, which are pretty dope. I've got those up on screen right now. But yeah, I think we ended up we talked to her, we talked to the other guy in the corner, to Albert Glassgrind. Like, we were just trying to find, basically, like we kind of talked about it, like a bunch of quests or like side quests that we kind of filled our pockets with. The first one being that game of Basilisk, where we're like, maybe some of us want to try out. Some of us did, some of us didn't. I think it ended up being just Angoric and Orpheus that were like, yeah, we'll go try out. Orpheus wasn't like huge into the sporting event thing, but like was like, yeah, this could be a good thing to do. And Angoric is like a lifelong fan, a lifelong fan of the sport. So he was super down to go try out. I don't remember. I think my character went and talked to Albert, but I don't remember exactly what he ended up telling us. He's a hunter. I talked to him a little bit about cave worms, but I don't remember if he ended up giving us like any like quote unquote quests or anything like that.
I'm sure that he's responsible for one of the things that you guys learned. I know that the
Gundars, wasn't he? He gave us the cave mules thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So I know the innkeeper told you about the pie eating contest. There's a stickleberry pie eating contest.
That's tomorrow.
And told you that there's a lot of people in town for different things. There's merchants,
yeah,
all the way from the Dongan Holds, and the Knights of Lastwall have sent a contingent out to the city.
Yep.
So you heard about some of those things, but then you spoke to Albert, and he told you about his friend named Ektar Beatsmith. And he's a dwarven rancher who recently took over an Ogdenar ranch. So he's trying to trying to raise Ogdenars for the dwarves to use as mules, as pack mules, through beasts of burden throughout the city.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they'd been kind of someone was out there bothering them. I didn't know if it was supernatural in nature or just like kids pranking them or what exactly was going on. But he was basically looking for help.
Yeah.
But he didn't think that the city guard would be willing to come out and help if it was just kids messing around or ghosts or something. So he's like looking for kind of an outside source to get some help.
Yeah,
So.
and I think we said that we were that was one of our plans to do next session. So we're gonna get on that. We also learned that there was an influx of like non-native peoples at High Helm Academy looking for like dwarvish tutors for like various languages and stuff like that. None of us immediately seemed like that was something that we would be able to do. My internet just died. I'm going to cut the video, and then we'll be back as soon as I get the internet up and running. And we're back! My internet has been reset. That's the third time it's gone down, or fourth time in 3 days. So sick. But I think we were talking about the different like side quest things that we got. We learned that there was our notes say an influx of non-native people at High Helm Academy looking for dwarvish tutors. So I think it was like a language thing. Like if anyone knew multiple languages, they were looking for people to help them like learn different languages, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a lot of people around town, probably because of the festival and other things like that, that don't speak Dwarvish as well as they could. So it's a good opportunity to learn different languages, but also to like help out some people who are not familiar with the local tongue. Did you get all of the other ones? We talked about the Knights of Lastwall being in town, and the merchants from Dungan Holds, and the Stickleberry Pie eating contest.
Lights of Last. Yep, all that. Yep, got all that. And then the stables
Okay.
being sabotaged, and maybe it's supernatural, but I don't really know. But yeah, so I think after we kind of learned all that we thought we were going to learn at Helgen's, we decided the tryouts were happening later in the day, so we decided to just head on down to like the arena, or I don't know what you would want to call it. Actually, before we did that, we actually went to the overview of the map of like the whole thing. So I'll pull up that map here, and we kind of talked about like the levels of High Helm and how there's like 4 major levels. And so I'll pull that map up on the screen. I have to go into great detail again about it, but there's like 4 levels, and then we got like a picture of each one of the different levels here. So we have King's Crown, King's Heart, Stone Breach, and then the depths. And so I think the Agandar, like the cave mule thing, was going to be in the depths, but I think that the tryouts are in King's Crown, like they're the top level. So yeah, we decided to kind of work our way down. So we went to that first and ended up what's the name? Is that what's the name of that map? Is it Travel Locations? Yeah, it looks like it's Travel Locations. So we went. Again, a lot of stuff going on in this map. This is kind of how it ended up. But yeah, Orpheus and Angoric did their tryouts. We're not going to go into like great detail. Like it was just some checks and things like that. But they ended up both passing enough to make the team. Basically, I think they passed so well. Like Orpheus passed so well. They only had one spot open, but they passed so well that we kicked someone off the team. Like one of the current members of these guys, they kicked off the team. And had Orpheus come in and join. It was like someone's name was close to Angoric's, so they decided to get them on.
Oric.
But Oric.
Oric, they were going to bench Oric, who was one of the older players on the team.
Yeah.
And he was quite frustrated about it, but
yeah, it was good. But like the rest of us, like we're in the like stands cheering, and Kawru has kind of found that he likes to ride on people's shoulders, so he was picking different shoulders to ride on, so that was fun. But then we ended up meeting like the person that kind of sent us on our next quest, which is Tregelin Pearl. Is that this guy? Yeah, Tregelin Pearl Cask. And this guy was a guy. He's like this. I mean, I'll pull up his.
A manly man.
Yeah, I mean,
Tregelon was wearing very little more than a loincloth, even watching this game, and a handkerchief. But he's a heavily muscled dwarf with deeply tanned skin, and a kind of a friendly looking face. But he also kind of smelled faintly of the sea, and it turns out he is a mollusk and crustacean farmer. He kind of has these pools in the depths at the bottom of High Helm, where he raises these animals for food. So he was complaining because one of his prize crabs, Lady Shimmersnip, as she's called,
Lady Shimmersnip,
has been infested. She's been infested with a couple of
parasites.
parasites, leeches.
Yeah, leeches. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's really been antsy of late, and he can't go to anyone else because the city guard would most likely just tell him to to put down one of his critters because they've been infected. So he was looking for help outside of the normal avenues, and so he kind of begged.
He saw us do
Nimble-
this, like us do so well in the tryouts. So I was like, I bet those people
Mhm.
can help. The two of us.
He
at
looked like a
least.
real hero. So just kind of gave them the opportunity. It's like, if you want, come down, and if you're able to, like, see if you can help out Lady Shimmersnip without harming her.
That was a big thing.
But
He was like, "Don't harm her," and he gave us like
yeah.
a tip on how not to harm her. We have to approach her and do a
crab
snap
dance.
thing, a crab dance
Little
thing
crab
when,
dance,
we're
yeah.
coming in. So,
Yeah.
and I think we ended up deciding that like Huang was going to help because it was revealed that she is a druid. Like this is kind of where we learned what her class was and that she is a druid, so maybe you would have an easier time helping with animal-related tasks. So, yeah, we chatted with him for a while. It was funny. It was good. We missed it because Twitch doesn't record VODs. And then, I mean, I guess we ended the session seeing her for the first time. Like that's kind of where we ended. So let me pull that up on the map here, and we'll end it the same way. So we kind of came in. We're all on this like a platform, and there she is. It's a giant crab. I mean, it's like hippo sized. I think is what we decided. It was like a good
easily the size of like an elephant or a hippopotamus.
yeah, because it's a large creature. It's 2x2. It takes up 4 squares. So this is a giant crab. So we're assuming that we're gonna have to do some sort of roll for initiative action, but not like don't hurt her. Like that's the big thing is don't hurt her. So we have to approach with the dance and see if we can't get these mollusks or whatever off of her. So, but yeah, that's pretty much where we end it. So that's where I'll end this. We got so close before my internet died. I mean, this half of it's only 6 minutes, 7 minutes long. So we had a good run at it, but. Yeah, we'll see you guys. It'll be Thursday this week. Normally we'll do Wednesday nights, but we're doing Thursday nights this week. We've got some stuff going on Wednesdays, but yeah, I appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching.
You're welcome.